What is the best style for mixed martial arts? That is a question that I hear, that I get asked very, very frequently. Of course, with the sport being so popular, more and more people want to start it. A lot of youngsters want to try it and they want to become world champions. So they want to know, what's the best style? What is the best martial art to start doing as a youngster, as a teenager, or even a man in your 20s or a woman in your 20s? What's the best thing to start? And a lot of people, the word on the street, the popular answer, the thing that everybody says is wrestling. Because if you're a good wrestler, you can determine where the fight takes place. You can take somebody down if you want to. Or if you've got good wrestling, like a Justin Gagey, you can use that wrestling to stay on your feet and use your boxing. And it was actually Justin Gagey that got me thinking about this subject. And I've got my answer for you in just a second. But first, let's hear from Justin Gagey. Here's what he said when asked that same question, what's the best style? Well, you would think that he would say that wrestling is the best. But he said, I don't think wrestling is the best. I think what these Russians are doing is better. I think it's wrestling with submissions from a young age. And I think that translates even better. It takes a while to learn to go to your back intuitively. When you're a wrestler your whole life, and that's something that can get you in trouble in this game. He then went on to say Sambo, because that's essentially what Sambo is. It's wrestling with submissions. He said Sambo is an aggressive sport with the submissions. And I think that's a better fit for this. But ultimately, I think wrestling is. And then he starts to waffle on a little bit. Shout out Justin Gagey, all the best for the BMF belt. And I do get asked this question a lot. What is the best style? Well, of course, there's three elements to mixed martial arts. There's the stand-up part, there's the clinch, and then there's the ground. Okay, the stand-up part is pretty obvious, okay? There's a lot of martial arts with striking in, but the only real good ones that you want to take any kind of techniques from are Taekwondo, Thai boxing, karate, and boxing. Okay, there's a few varieties of those sports, but they're kind of the ones that you want to look at. Okay, simple as that. Boxing is fantastic, okay, with the footwork and all the rest of it, but you want to blend those styles. Muay Thai is fantastic, the kicks, the knees, the elbows, but you want the footwork of a boxer, so you got to blend those. When it comes to the clinch, wrestling, judo, there's many different art forms. And of course, when you hit the ground, the obvious one is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the question I asked at the beginning, which, if you had to pick one, is the most important? And I'm going to tell you this, none of them are the most important. What's important is you. What's important is the person. More importantly, the mind. These are all skills that we can learn, okay? And yes, having a grappling background, a wrestling background, doing it from when you were 4 years old, becoming an Olympic champion or an NCAA champ, that's fantastic. But you don't have to do that. You can be a world-class boxer, a world-class kickboxer, a champion Olympic medalist at judo like Ronda Rousey. You can be all of these things and that's fantastic. But the reality is you don't need any of them because you can learn all of those things, okay? I mean, the mind is the most important weapon. And if you're willing to put the work in, you have the work ethic, and you have a good team around you and good coaches, you can catch up pretty quick. I mean, look at Israel Adesanya, for crying out loud. One of the biggest stars in the sport, defended the belt a number of times. He's not a wrestler. He never wrestled. He's not choking people out. He's not doing omoplatas. He's a world-class kickboxer, granted. He's an amazing, phenomenal kickboxer. One of the best we've seen up there with Anderson Silva. But he's not a wrestler. The wrestling is great. The jiu-jitsu is great. Boxing, kickboxing, Thai boxing, these are all fantastic arts, but it's down to the individual. It's down to the individual that's going to go out there, that's going to impose his will and make his style work. More importantly, they're going to go out there, they're going to train hard, they're going to push themselves to the absolute limit. You can have all the skill in the world. You can be a Bo Nickel in the wrestling department. If you get tired, it doesn't matter how good you are. Cardio, conditioning, stamina, strength, explosivity. These are all things that a fighter needs. When you get tired, it doesn't matter how good you are. When you run out of gas, you are fucked. And it's as simple as that. I learned that the hard way. I had a kickboxing fight when I was about 17, 18 years old. It was 8 rounds for a British title. I hadn't trained a day in months. And I lied to my coach. I said I was training. I took a British title fight at short notice. 8 rounds that fight was. The first 4 I tried to kill him because I'd won all my fights by knockout. I didn't get him out of there. And the next 4 rounds I was spent. I was gassed. I was exhausted. And the next 4 rounds, I got the shit kicked out of me. And I've learned a very valuable lesson in those last 4 rounds. It is the loneliest place on planet Earth. If you're playing football, basketball, whatever kind of team sport it is, if you're having an off day, if you're tired, you can just not apply yourself. You know, and you can disappear into the middle of the pack if you're playing rugby, whatever the case may be, okay? But in a ring, a one-on-one environment, when it's you and your opponent and just the referee, there's nowhere to run or hide. And if you get tired, it doesn't matter how good you are, how skilled you are. If you're tired, that's it. You're dead meat. It's game over. Simple as that. But more importantly, as I was saying, when it comes to the actual style, yes, wrestling's fantastic. Boxing is, jiu-jitsu, and you need them all. That is what we saw from the UFC. That's what we saw in UFC 1, 2, 3. And as the sport evolved, we found out there is no perfect style. There is no one style. You need a little bit of everything, okay? You can be a specialist like an Israel Adesanya or an Anderson Silva. You can be an incredible wrestler like a Matt Hughes or a Bo Nickel. You can be a Damian Maia on the ground, okay? But what all those things, all those people have in common is that they are competitors and they have the drive to will, to succeed and to push and become something and make something of themselves. And this, in many times, in many instances, is the only thing that they have. Okay, so you've got to want it and you've got to be willing to put the work in. So having all the skill in the world doesn't mean anything if you haven't got the mindset, okay? And you've got to have that mindset to keep pushing, to keep striving to learn, to get better, to learn from your defeats, to not accept defeat even when you lose. What I mean by that is to keep pushing and know, okay, I lost that fight. Look at yourself, be honest. Why did I lose? Let's break it down. What was I doing wrong? You've got to be confident enough to step in there, but not arrogant enough to where you don't learn from your losses. That's a big key as well. But the answer is Justin Gaethje. He says wrestling, he says sambo. They are traditionally what people say. I say all that matters is the individual. And it truly is. Israel Adesanya is a great example. I think I'm an even better example. I wasn't an Anderson Silva or an Israel Adesanya. I certainly wasn't a Damian Maia on the ground, and I certainly couldn't wrestle like Bo Nickel. But somehow, some way, I worked my goddamn ass off, and I made it there, and I did it, and I became champion of the world. And I'm not some unicorn, and I'm not sitting here blowing my own trumpet. What I'm saying is, this is the most important weapon, okay? The most important skill to have is the stubbornness to keep trying and keep pushing and keep training, keep showing up when the going gets tough, okay? When you quit on yourself, only then is it truly over. And okay, some people might say that's blind confidence. And say if you jokes, they might say it's blind confidence. They may say that you're kidding yourself. But only when you give up on yourself is when it's truly over. And the most important skill to have is the work ethic, the drive, and just the willingness to get your bloody hands dirty. Still, there it is. Justin Gaethje says wrestling, if not that, combat sambo. What do you think? I'm telling you, it's all on the individual. We all have our skills, but we've got to be willing to work our asses off. Work ethic, mindset, determination, whichever adjective you want to use. That is the most important tool. What you need stepping into a boxing ring, a jiu-jitsu mat, or a UFC octagon. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe, ring the bell. See you soon.